After completing the last few quests in God of War Ragnarok, I now have the Platinum Trophy in my collection. But before I do a video on Ragnarok, I have to tell you what my first God of War game was. That was God of War 2018. Now, let's go all the way back to the Wayback Machine to when I was in my early teens. My mother was always at work and my auntie and uncle would always look after me at their place. While discovering their house for the first time, I noticed there was a PlayStation 2 with the old-fashioned TV setup. Next to the PS2 were the cases of video games and folders, but out of all the PlayStation 2 games that my uncle had, only two grabbed my attention: Medal of Honor Frontline and God of War. In a way, I have my uncle to thank for expanding my horizons into other video games, and he always let me borrow the games I wanted to try out. Obviously, Medal of Honor Frontline was a nostalgic game, but the other game was interesting and confusing at the same time. The protagonist was using these weird chain weapons with fire around them, but I knew the game was based on Greek mythology because I knew some of the gods, mostly because of my history teachers. Whenever my uncle died in a mission or finished a level, he'd always offer me a turn, but for some strange reason I declined, because I was only interested in the story and not the gameplay. At the time, weapons in video games had to look cool for me to use, even if the stats of the weapon were bad. Looking back, I feel like an idiot for refusing a turn, because now I'm playing God of War 3 and now I'm enjoying it at the moment. In 2018, I was running out of games to play, and with Red Dead Redemption 2 around the corner, I needed a new game. God of War just seemed like the most logical choice since nothing else had intrigued me that year. Getting into God of War 2018, here's what I did know about our main character Kratos. He is a Spartan warrior who nearly died in battle and made a deal with Ares, who is the God of War in Greek mythology. Kratos wished to defeat his enemies and to protect his troops. In return, Kratos volunteered his services to the God of War. The deal ultimately cost him his soul, which resulted in him killing his wife and daughter without realizing it until late. In the end, Kratos killed Ares, inheriting the mantle of God of War. The other games dive into his desire to kill the other gods who would wrong him. If my basic premise is wrong, absolutely make fun of me in the comments or just correct me. In other words, I went into God of War 2018 as a noob. Another thing I knew about the older God of War games before starting up 2018, the original trilogies was more geared towards a gameplay-centric experience from the gameplays I saw. Not to mention, I saw my uncle play the games, which gave me a lot of my knowledge. With me going back to God of War 2018, I have to go in a different direction for this video, as I was just getting into the God of War franchise. As an FYI, I will not be talking about the gameplay until my Ragnarok video. In this video, I will only be talking about the side objectives and the main story. One thing I always do in a story-driven game like this is complete all the side missions before the main story. And I gotta say, the side missions feel different compared to other games, where side content felt like chores, like I'm ticking them off a genuine checklist. It's one common complaint I have with some open world games these days, but not with God of War 2018. This game does what not a lot of gaming studios do with their side objectives, and that is make them about character development. As I was completing the side missions, I realized they also serve as lessons for our new character Atreus, at least from the way I see them. One of the missions was about a dead spirit who had led his boat crew to their deaths and after felt remorseful. If you chose to do the favour, you put the rest of the souls to rest for the captain. After finishing the objective, Kratos talks about how great leaders can even make bad choices. While witnessing this, I saw Kratos secretly teaching Atreus about responsibility since he was once a leader. With that out of the way, I think it's time to get into the main narrative of God of War 2018. And I should warn you that there will be spoilers ahead. Before we can select new game in the main menu, we can see a visibly upset Kratos looking at a handprint marked on a tree, obviously someone of importance to him. Right after you've chosen the difficulty, you are put right into the game, no loading screen needed. Next, we are introduced to our new character Atreus, who is the son of Kratos. From then, I knew this was gonna be a self-contained story between father and son. In this scene, bandages begin to fall off the arms of Kratos, which would show the scars from the Blades of Chaos. As Kratos hides his wounds from Atreus, it becomes clear that he doesn't want his son to know about his past. So even though this was my first God of War game, even I know this scene was designed to pay respect to the previous games. Little did I know it would play a bigger part in this story. As we hop on a boat with Atreus, he remarks the forest feels different, to which Kratos simply responds by saying, "Everything is different, try not to dwell on it." To me, this dialogue has two meanings. Santa Monica Studios deliberately told people who played the original trilogy to expect a different type of experience, more focused on the story and the Norse world. When we get back to the house, we find out why Kratos was cutting down that marked tree. Faye was the wife of Kratos who had passed away, and the wood would be used for her cremation. As Kratos sparks the fire, Atreus would grab the knife from Faye's body for sentimental reasons. It's an emotional scene to start the game because you can see the pain in Kratos as he grieves, something I had never seen Kratos go through in the previous games.
Find your way home. You are free.
I'm sorry.
Squeeze. This knife. It was hers. Now it is yours. She taught you to hunt.
What she knew.
Show me.
Now?
Now.
What are we hunting?
You are hunting deer.
Before the ashes can be gathered, Kratos takes Atreus hunting, and for the rest of this level, it mainly serves as the tutorial, getting you used to the mechanics. Not only is it a tutorial, it also sets up Atreus' character in the plot. When the two find the deer, Kratos gives Atreus the task of shooting the deer they found. Atreus manages to wound it, but he is unable to finish the kill. Out of nowhere, we encounter our first boss fight, a massive troll that attacks us out of nowhere. This was one of the major problems with the game. The fight was great, but as you progress through this story, you'll fight the same boss type more than twice, getting a little bit repetitive for my liking, and it's not just the trolls with the enemy variety. As Kratos defeats the troll, it becomes clear that Atreus cannot control his emotions after stabbing the already dead troll. With Atreus not ready for the journey in the harsh world, the two head home and Kratos gathers the ashes of Faye. Still angry with his father's observations, Atreus is eager to prove he is ready for the journey. As a test, Kratos knowingly provoked his son to see if he can control his anger, and like with the troll, he struggles to contain his emotions. Just as the two get some rest, an unexpected guest shows up at the house and knows Kratos. But this new character isn't known to Atreus or Kratos. Fearing that the stranger will attack or kidnap his son, he tells Atreus to hide underneath the house. One thing is for certain, this guy is not scared of Kratos despite his many warnings to leave. Although Kratos landed a couple good punches, but out of nowhere, this mysterious person, despite his appearance, knocks Kratos so far in the air it breaks part of his house in the process.
You do not want this fight.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I do.
Leave my home.
You are going to have to kill me for that to happen.
I warned you.
Finally.
You would not listen.
Fine. My turn. How incredibly disappointing. Come on then.
At the moment, my head went into overdrive into thinking which Norse god was I fighting. This starts one of the major boss fights in the game, and without a doubt this was my favourite boss fight in the game, because it sets up the story from there. Right off the bat, I love this villain's personality because he was a humorous smartass, and despite doing some heavy damage to him, he keeps getting back up. One detail that gets revealed during the fight, our villain mentions that he cannot feel any pain. Immediately, anyone who knows Norse mythology knows exactly who the villain was. But if your expertise on Norse mythology is very bare bones like mine, you won't know who the person was. The more you advance through the story, subtle hints are provided as to who our mysterious character was, whether it be through cutscenes or dialogue. So after tearing up the land, Kratos finally manages to kill the stranger, but there is another danger our characters now face. With the possibility that the other Norse gods now know where they live, Kratos now knows he has to go on the journey he dreaded to take with Atreus. From here, the game gets you used to new gameplay features and the skill tree that you will be upgrading. The game also introduces new enemy types as well as environmental puzzles that you will run into multiple times throughout the whole game. Then you'll meet one of the merchant dwarven brothers, Brock, who made Faye's Leviathan axe along with his brother. With Kratos not believing him, Brock tells Kratos to look under the grip where there is a rune in the shape of a fork. Brock also reveals that his brother has the other half of the brand before they split. If there's a couple things I love about Brock, he's got no filter but is straightforward, and I love his character. Not only is he a friendly character, he will be your first store merchant where you can buy and upgrade your weapons and armor. As we go further in, Atreus senses a ball. Tracking it down, Atreus shoots the arrow at a weak spot, only for the arrow to rebound off. As we chase the ball down, we find a new character in the woods, and she's not amused that we've come close to potentially killing the last of his kind. To make amends, Kratos decides to help our new character, who appears to be a witch. Make sure you pay attention to this because it becomes more apparent in Ragnarok to who this ball is. Not only is she a witch, but she also knows Kratos is a foreign god and knows Atreus isn't aware of his father's nature. So she puts more pressure on Kratos to reveal all to his son. As a way of saying thank you, she gives Kratos a mark that would hide them from people who may make their journey difficult. That was my main question while playing this game. Will Kratos tell his son the truth about his past? As the two make their way to the center of the lake, you cast your axe into the lake, which brings forth the world serpent, Jormungandr.
What is this?
It's the world serpent.
World Serpent is gigantic, that he covers nearly all of Midgard, but to my shock we actually don't fight him, and think about it, it would make sense for a God of War game because that's what the games are predicated on. Giant boss battles with huge set pieces. Luckily for us, Faye had told Atreus that he is friendly and he will actually help us on our quest. Before Kratos and Atreus make their way up the mountains, they meet Brock's brother, Sindri. One difference between the two brothers, Sindri is more kind-hearted based on his reaction to hearing Faye had passed away. But the most funny thing about Sindri is he suffers from germophobia out of all things. Every time I witnessed him on the verge of vomiting when he was near something disgusting, I laughed multiple times watching him struggle to carry the axe. Like Brock, he will also upgrade the Leviathan axe out of respect for Faye. What I loved about Brock and Sindri is their personalities are completely opposite, but there was one question on my mind. What caused the fracture between the two? Being so close to our end goal, I knew something was up. As we make our journey up the mountains, there is one big obstacle blocking our path. A large black mist, but fortunately the witch had followed us. She reveals that even her magic can't dispel the black breath, and to break through it, the pure light of Alfheim is needed. Asking why she's helping us, the witch replies she sees herself in Kratos, and maybe by helping them she will make up for a lifetime of mistakes, raising another question for me. Who is this unknown witch? Kratos and Atreus follow her to the realm travel room where a new mechanic is brought to us, and that is realm travel. The witch gives us the Bifrost, which allows you to traverse into different realms, and as we step out into Alfheim, the witch is suddenly pulled back into Midgard by some spell. Moving forward, we discover there's a never-ending war between the Dark Elves and the Light Elves. I simply loved exploring Alfheim because of the colour palette, and since I was playing this on the PlayStation 4 Pro, the graphics were gorgeous. My only complaint about this chapter was the fact that not a single small group within both camps sought peace instead of the endless bloodshed. Arriving at the light of Alfheim, Kratos decides to leave Atreus with his axe and enters it alone. What follows next is a segment that reveals what his son thinks of him, and it brings Kratos to the realization that he hasn't had enough faith in Atreus. After Kratos is pulled from the light, a lot of time has passed and Atreus has killed a lot of elves by himself.
Wait! Come back! No! No! What have you done? Why did you do that?
I saved you! You were trapped in there! I waited and I waited, but you wouldn't come out! So I pulled you out!
Boy! I was gone only... moments.
No! You've been gone a long, long time! I didn't know what to do! You left me here! Again! Why don't you care?
That's impossible.
We should go before they come back.
Seeing the amount of bodies that Atreus had stockpiled, Kratos begins to give his son more faith, seeing he has shown improvements from the boss fight with the troll. From this point on, he doesn't treat Atreus as a hindrance, and you get to see the bond visibly develop between the two. With the pure light of Alfheim in our possession, we can finally make our way back to the Black Breath. From here, the mountain section will mainly be about puzzle solving and exploring the caves within the mountains. Just when you thought you had a smooth elevator ride, a huge dragon appears, and I couldn't find the timing more funny with Atreus' last words. The fight with the dragon is divided into two parts, trapped on the elevator and on the outside, and it happens to be one of my favourite boss fights in the game, right next to the fight with the mysterious stranger. Instead of escaping, Atreus and Kratos save Sindri from the dragon. Throwing sap crystals at the dragon causes an explosion, allowing you to hit the exposed head. As I was fighting, I was having the time of my life with the amazing set piece, and it's where I saw the teamwork build between the two. After the rescue, a grateful Sindri upgrades Atreus' bow with the shock arrows that can explode sap from the world tree. With the peak of the mountains in our reach, we hear from a familiar voice and some new characters. That being the stranger we thought we killed earlier. One of the new characters reveals that the stranger's name is Balder, son of Odin. Two of the three new characters are Magni and Modi. They are the sons of Thor, which present a larger question later on. The other character is Mimir, who Odin had imprisoned in a tree for 109 winters and isn't on friendly terms with the gods. Unfortunately, Mimir breaks the bad news to Kratos and Atreus that the highest peak in all the realms is not in Midgard. To their shock, Mimir reveals that the highest peak is in Jotunheim, land of the giants. He also mentions how a secret rune and a chisel are needed to get into Jotunheim. Luckily for us, Mimir is the only person who can get us into the realm of the giants. Mimir asks for Kratos to cut off his head and to take it to the witch, who can bring him back with the old magic. Just before Kratos is about to swing, Mimir remarks that he will eventually have to reveal his past to his son. As the two make it back to the witch's house, they show who they wanted brought back to life, though it seems the two had some bad blood, but luckily she reluctantly agrees to help.
That's enough.
It worked!
Let me see him. Mimir? You there?
Yes.
Good.
Oh. Hello, Freya. Been a long time. You look well.
What I did for them. As far as I'm concerned, death suits you better.
I'd bow if I could, Your Majesty. Forgive me. Had I known the witch in the woods was Freya herself, I never would have suggested this.
Freya? The goddess Freya?
You didn't know either? Sorry.
When word gets out that Mimir is free, the wrath of Odin won't be far behind.
You are God.
Leader of the Vanir, once yes, but no longer.
You did not think it important to tell me.
Are you really going to lecture me about that?
Really, young boy.
But...
Now.
You're welcome!
With the head of the smartest man alive reanimated by the old magic, Mimir discloses that the identity of the witch is the goddess Freya. Knowing the history of Kratos and the gods, this creates animosity between the two because of his distrust, but Freya makes a good point. He hasn't been forthright with himself or his son, and she puts more pressure on him to tell Atreus the truth. Despite Mimir calling himself the smartest man alive, he is also the comedic relief in this game. Not only is he a new companion that gives us assistance, he also fills in a lot of the backstory on the Norse world. Our journey takes us to a new part of Midgard, where the corpse of the giant Thamur lies, and it's here where we can see what kind of powerful force Thor is. It was the god of thunder who took him down, causing him to fall on his own chisel. Before we can get the chisel, I was predicting that the sons of Thor would show up, and it would make sense that the fight would happen near the corpse of Thamur. As I predicted, Magni and Modi showed up. Their roles are small, but they serve a larger purpose in the narrative, either at the end of the game or a potential sequel. Kratos and Atreus managed to kill Magni, with Modi fleeing the scene.
The last of him.
I'll kill you!
Atreus! Control yourself!
How did you... You have no idea. You son of a bitch!
Get these guys! I'll rip your head off!
Killing one of Thor's sons can only mean one thing. The god of thunder would seek his revenge. With Kratos acquiring the chisel, the two head to Tyr's vault to learn the Jotunheim travel route. Tyr was the Norse god of war, but Mimir held him in high regard because he used his power to make peace instead of war. Tyr was killed by Odin, fearing he would overcome him. The Norse god was the only person the giants had trusted to protect Jotunheim. While a good backstory, I truly wondered if Odin killed Tyr. Out of nowhere, Modi attacks Kratos and Atreus for killing his brother, but it's a scene where Atreus tries to find his Spartan rage, but ultimately, He collapses. With a sick Atreus, Mimir tells Kratos to get him to Freya. It was this point where I wanted my questions answered. When will Kratos bring up his past to Atreus? Kratos manages to get the boy back to Freya, who reveals his illness isn't normal, that his true nature and his sons are fighting within each other. To help Atreus, Freya tells Kratos to get the heart of the Bridgekeeper in Helheim, but there was only one problem. Freya also brings up that our frost axe will be useless, and from there, I automatically knew what we were going back to get. The best thing about this scene was, I could imagine all the people who had played the original games freaking out at this moment.
Hell,
The realm of the dead. Do you know it?
not this one.
It is a land of unyielding cold. Fires cannot burn there, and no magic in all the 9 realms can create a blaze. As for the dead, your frost axe will be useless. You'll need to find something else.
Then I must return home. Dig up a past I swore would stay buried.
Who you were before doesn't matter. This boy is not your past, he is your son. And he needs his father. This rune opens the bridge to Helheim. When you are there, do not under any circumstances cross the bridge of the damned. There is no road back. Understand?
Boy,
Himmele, you must hurry.
It was strange to me because even I knew the first 3 games had different weapons, and the fact that we only used the axe felt uncharacteristic. At the time it made sense, why wouldn't we be using the Blades of Chaos? Kratos was avoiding his past. The anticipation was killing me on the boat ride back home because I had never used the blades in the older games. During the ride back, there are 2 standout parts on the boat scene that give me goosebumps. We can hear ominous thunder in the background. Maybe Thor had found out about Magni's death with the thunder a symbol of his anger. Through hallucinations, we see the Greek goddess Athena, reminding him of his troubled past. Once again, Santa Monica Studios paid proper respects to its predecessors with this scene, without it feeling like nostalgia bait. Because the cutscenes with Athena served the purpose of reminding Kratos about his troubled history. After entering the house, we finally obtain the Blades of Chaos.
There's nowhere you can hide, Spartan. Put as much distance between you and the truth as you want. It changes nothing. Pretend to be everything you are not. Teacher, husband, father. But there is one unavoidable truth you will never escape. You cannot change. You will always be a monster.
I know. But I am your monster no longer.
All right, brother. Let's see what those blades can do.
After getting the blades, I was simply in love with them as I was easily taking out enemies. Just when you thought the blades were going to be a one-time thing only, you find out that the blades have their own skill tree that you can upgrade as well. And if you wanted to keep using the axe, you could swap. Kratos makes it to Helheim to collect the heart of the Bridgekeeper, who unfortunately is another troll with different moves, and the fight was boring because you fight the same enemy type multiple times throughout the story. With the Bridgekeeper defeated and the heart ready for Atreus, an illusion of Zeus is presented in front of Kratos, with Mimir telling him that Helheim is known for torturing its inhabitants with their own past. We make our way back to Freya's house with the life-saving heart that Atreus needs, but Freya states the fact that she can only cure his fever, and for Atreus to fully heal, Kratos must tell his son the truth of what he is. Freya also brings up that she has a son, and because of bad choices she made, the consequences, it led to his resentment of her. Freya sees Kratos in the same position she was in and tells him not to make that same mistake. With a recovered Atreus, Kratos comes to respect Freya since she had helped save his son. Despite his distrust for the gods, he no longer sees her as one, but rather a friend, adding excellent character growth to Kratos. As the two leave Freya's cave, Kratos finally tells Atreus that he is a god, and this is where we see the relationship build even more. Kratos and Atreus make their way back to Tyr's vault to learn the Jotunheim rune. Discovered in Tyr's vault were relics from other mythologies. Among those relics was a jar of Spartan wine. The two have a wholesome father and son moment while Kratos shares the wine with Atreus. In this scene, Kratos stops treating his son like a kid and starts to view him as a competent warrior. But with the revelation that Atreus is a god, he becomes overconfident in his abilities and starts to sound like the ruthless Kratos in his earlier days, which was something that Kratos wanted him to avoid. Running into Sindri again, Atreus becomes rude to him to his father's dismay, even going to the point where he badmouths his mother and gets frustrated with Kratos not answering his every question. In the mountains, the two come across an injured Modi, and it turns out his father had beaten him for running away.
Thor! Blame me! Me! For what you did to Magni. My own father called me a coward.
Looks like he did more than that. Move it, or we'll pick up where he left off.
I'll kill you.
No. He is beaten. Not worth killing.
He should pay for what he said about Mother.
I said no.
But we're gods. We can do whatever we want.
That's what I said to your mother, right before I gave it to her.
What are you doing?
This is a much better knife than Mother's.
You killed against my wishes. You lost control.
Haven't you been teaching me to kill?
I've been teaching you to survive. We are gods, boy. And that makes us a target. From now until the end of days, you are marked. So I teach you to kill, yes, but in defense of yourself. Never as an indulgence.
Nobody cared about him anyways. What's the difference?
There are consequences to killing a god!
Why? How do you know? How do you know?
Watch your tone, boy.
Whatever.
Against his father's wishes, Atreus kills Modi, and a disappointed Kratos replies, "There are consequences to killing a god." With all the sons of Thor dead, another game has already been teased. When I watched Atreus kill Thor's last son, I could not help but feel the sense of irony, because you know from the previous games, Kratos had that same exact attitude in the prior games. The two make their way back to the mountains to inscribe the rune, but just before they enter the realm of the giants, Baldur shows up for another fight, and it ends with the two destroying the portal to Jotunheim. Like in the beginning, Atreus fails to contain his emotions. In a shocking twist, Atreus, not in control, shoots his father.
Let Daddy do all the heavy lifting for you.
Let go!
Calm down, boy. You are not ready for this.
I am ready!
And here I thought my family was fucked up. Oh, your father is right, boy. You are far from ready. Now would you be so kind as to hold this for me? Thank you.
Atreus!
What happens next is another superb set piece where you have a grueling battle with Balder on top of a dragon. Balder attempts to take Atreus to Asgard, but Kratos is able to divert past to Helheim, creating separation between the two. With Atreus rescued, Kratos gives his son a well-needed talking to for his recent behavior.
Word. I am your father, and you, boy, are not yourself. You are too quick to temper. You are rash, insubordinate, and out of control. This will not stand. You will honor your mother and abandon this path you have chosen. It is not too late. This discussion is far from over. We are here because of you, boy. Never forget that.
It is here where we start getting our answers. The source of Balder's invulnerability was revealed. Through his past, we learn that Freya is his mother, and we find out that she was the one responsible for Balder's curse, which he clearly hasn't moved past. Admittedly, I felt for Balder because not being able to feel anything would destroy me, and his anger was justified towards his mother, despite her having the best intentions. From this little scene, it sets up the end game, but I truly wondered, when does Freya come into this? As the two battle to get out of Helheim, there is another great callback to God of War 3, and if you're playing God of War for the first time, you can fully see yourself in Atreus' shoes because we witness Helheim bring up a repressed memory in Kratos. Through the eyes of Atreus, we see Kratos kill his father Zeus. It's a great way of Santa Monica Studios acknowledging their history with the franchise. With our end goal so close, side stories from earlier come to a close. Brock and Sindri come back together to mend their relationship, making for a happy reunion for the two brothers. Next we see Kratos and Atreus make it to the secret room near Tyr's vault to collect the Unity Stone, which had allowed Tyr to travel to other realms and foreign lands via the Realm Between Realms. As we leap into the Realm Between Realms, we find the lost Jotunheim Tower, but there is one problem. Even with the Jotunheim Tower found and restored to Midgard, preventing us from moving forward. Mimir tells us that Odin had took out his other eye, preventing him from realm travel. Out of answers, we seek out Sindri and Brock, who tells us that Mimir's lost eye was put in a statue of Thor. Adding a roadblock to our plans, the World Serpent had ate Thor's statue, but fortunately, he actually allows us to row into his mouth to retrieve the Bifrost Eye, and it wasn't as gross as I thought, making for a fun little mission. With the last item needed to get into Jotunheim, Kratos and Atreus make their way out, only to have someone attack the World Serpent. After the two fall out of Jormungandr, Freya shows up looking for her son, which we know is Balder, setting up the unavoidable fight. Balder was the one who attacked the World Serpent to bring out the two. With Kratos pushing Balder back from Freya, it starts the last final boss, and just like the first battle, the second was even better. This battle brings in multiple amazing set pieces, with Freya intervening to stop both of them from killing each other. As the main fight continues, Freya traps Kratos but fails with her son, but what follows next is, Balder punches Atreus into his father. Fearing Balder had wounded Atreus, it turns out Balder had punched the mistletoe arrow that kept Atreus' quiver together, which is the cure to his curse.
Stop! No! No! Atreus! You're bleeding. Breathe, boy. Breathe!
Not my blood.
What is that? I can feel this. kill everything.
Earlier in the game, a clue was given as to who Freya's son was. Sindri had gifted Atreus mistletoe arrows that strangely Freya threw away. For anyone that knew their Norse mythology immediately knew who the son was. With a now vulnerable Balder, Kratos and Atreus go on the attack with Freya still interfering. An impressive sight happens right in front of us. Freya uses her magic to control Thamur's dead body to try and stop the fighting. With Balder's spell removed, Kratos and Atreus work together to take Balder down through a grueling multi-stage fight. Another piece of information is provided to us. Atreus summons the World Serpent to attack Thamur's corpse. In the end, Balder only has one wish, which is to kill his mother for the spell she put on him, since she's the one who put him in that spot. Freya grants him his wish to kill her because she understands her choices cost him agony. Understanding his pain because of her choices, I understood his anger towards her, but I also understood Freya's intentions were to protect her son.
Father!
I love you.
Why do you even care? You could have walked away.
The Cygolians here must be better than this.
No, my boy! My dear sweet boy!
Freya. He chose this.
I will rain down every agony, every violation imaginable upon you. I will parade your cold body from every corner of every realm and feed your soul to the vilest filth in hell. That is my promise.
He saved your life.
He robbed me of everything. Everything.
With Balder dead, Freya tells Kratos that he will never change, and fearing she will disclose his past, Kratos finally reveals his past to his son.
You were just an animal. Passing on your cruelty and rage, you will never change.
And you do not know me.
I know enough. Does he?
Boy! Listen close. I'm from a land called Sparta. I made a deal with the god that cost me my soul. I killed many who were deserving. And many who were not. I killed my father.
That was your father in hell. Is this what it is to be a god? Is this how it always ends? Sons killing their mothers? Their fathers?
No. We will be the gods we choose to be. Not those who have been. Who I was is not who you be. We must be better.
Sadly, Freya is now an enemy, and I didn't feel any enjoyment out of killing Balder, knowing the death of her son would only make her seek her revenge. how I felt at the time, I sympathized for both parties involved. Mimi tells the two that she will come around, but only a sequel will tell if she does or not. So, with the end in sight, Kratos and Atreus finally make their way into Jotunheim with Mimi's help. But before the two can make it to Jotunheim's peak, a mural is found, and it turns out Faye was a giant and that she had predicted their whole journey. Once more detail that caught everyone's eye, Kratos sees the part of a covered mural showing a dead Kratos wrapped in his son's arms. Kratos and Atreus scatter Faye's ashes on the highest peak in all the realms, but in a shocking twist that I simply was not expecting. Faye had given Atreus a different name, which Atreus discovered on the murals.
Come.
So, I get that Mother was a giant, which makes me part giant and part god.
And part mortal.
Right. I guess there's just one thing I don't understand. My name on the wall. The giants called me... Loki?
Loki. That's the name your mother wanted for you when you were born. She must have called you that to her people.
Atreus turns out to be Loki, the god of mischief, and once I heard that, I had a WTF moment. What made the scene better was, it was hinted earlier in the game, right after Freya had healed Atreus. He asked his father if he could turn into an animal. With the news of his other name, Atreus wondered why his mother called him that to her people. We are told it is a tale for another day and that a sequel would explain why. Despite us finishing the game, there was a moment that could have been stuck earlier in the game. Atreus asks who he was named after. With a great story told by Kratos, the two head home for a rest, but they are woken by thunder. This can only mean one thing. Thor, but it turned out to be a dream as the two wake up, an effective way of setting up a sequel.
Sleep.
Way ahead of you. What was that?
The ball!
Even as a newcomer to the series, I still enjoyed this game a lot for its simple father and son story. But just because I loved the new direction this game took, this game had its shortcomings. Like I mentioned near the beginning, the enemy variety is lacking, something Santa Monica Studios addressed. There were some small issues I had with the story. I felt that the main story felt a little short, and there were other realms in the game that you could explore but only serve as side missions. Niflheim and Muspelheim are my examples of wasted opportunities, and to my guess as to why these realms didn't serve the overall plot. Rather, they add side content that I don't enjoy, and hopefully the minor realms serve a greater purpose in the sequel. Here are the other realms that are locked. There is Asgard, land of Odin and Thor. There's Vanaheim, Freya's homeland, and there's Fatherheim, land of the dwarves. Going forward, I hope Santa Monica incorporate their realms better in the sequel. Throughout the whole game, we only hear about Faye through small mentions, but I would have liked to see flashbacks of how Kratos and Faye met. There are some parts of the story that create more questions than answers. When Kratos takes an ill Atreus to Freya, someone unknown blows the horn to talk to the World Serpent. Right after Faye named Atreus, Loki to her people, I did my research. It turns out Jormungandr is the son of Loki in Norse mythology, but in this game Loki is young. We know in some of the other realms time works differently. Asking the question, is time travel possible in the Norse world? Only time will tell with these questions. God of War 2018 was one of those games that I personally loved for its more story-driven experience, but I could see this game losing points from old school fans. All I can do is tell you to give this game a go, because you might like this new direction, but at the end of the day, it's your choice. Despite some flaws, I can still recommend this game for its great story between father and son, the characters, the beautiful realms you travel into, but one aspect I didn't go into was the soundtrack done by McCreary, which was amazing. Before I end the video, I would like to thank you for watching since I went for a more different style review / analysis type video, and like always, thanks for watching.